Hello there, Charger family. Welcome to Mrs. Boyd's Math Room. I am, as always, Mrs. Boyd. How are you doing this evening? Today, we're going to be talking about literal equations. It is my favorite. I think it's amazing. It is a really neat application of all of the algebraic rules that we've learned thus far. And it will be used in all the rest of the math that you learn from here on out. So let's give it a definition. A literal equation is an equation that involves several variables of formulas. So we're going to be dealing today mostly with variables and not a whole lot with integers. So let's imagine we've got this rectangle. It's a standard rectangle, and we're going to call it length times width. Or, well, not length times length and width. Well, we know that the area of a rectangle is A equals length times width. That's a literal equation. We also know the perimeter is P equals length plus width, or 2 times the length plus the width. Also a literal equation. Let's do a little bit more math now to solve for a variable. That's the essence of what we're doing today. So we have x plus 2 equals 10, and we want to solve for x. So we want to get x alone. To do so, we have to get rid of this plus 2. Opposite of plus 2 is minus 2. So x comes down, plus 2 minus 2 cancels, and that equals 10 minus 2 is 8. So x equals 8 is our answer. Next, we have 2x equals 10. We want to get x alone. It's just a single step equation. I'm going to divide by that 2. 2 divided by 2 cancels out, and we're left with x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now we have x divided by 2 equals 10. We want to get x alone. Opposite of divide by 2 is multiply by 2. We have to do that on each side. 2 divided by 2 cancels out, and I'm left with x. 10 times 2 is 20. So that's the gist of what is a literal equation. Now let's do something a little bit more exciting. We have s equals a plus b, and we want to get a alone. Well, we have a right here. We want to make sure it's alone, so we have to get rid of plus b. The opposite of plus b is minus b. We subtract b on each side. S minus b, can't put those together because they're not the same. Our variables have to be the exact same to combine them. So now instead we have s minus b equals, a comes down, b minus b cancels out. So that's our solution. A equals s minus b. Next one, a equals L times W. For W, we want to get W alone. Well, it means we have to move L out of the way. L is multiplying with W, so the opposite of multiply, divide. So we're going to divide both sides by L. A divided by L, I can't put those together, so they're just going to stay separate. A divided by L, and that equals L over L cancels out, so that equals W. Our answer is W equals A over L. Next, we want to solve for M, and we have D equals M over V. Well, to get M alone, we'll have to get rid of V. What's the opposite of divide by V? It's multiply by V. So we have V times D. We can't simplify that. V divided by V cancels out, and that equals M. So that we have our solution. M equals V times D. Let's keep this party going. You can pause it here and try these next three if you'd like, and then meet back and I'll get you the solution. We've got 4r minus b equals m, and we want to get r alone. So, excuse me. I've got to get rid of the minus b to get the r term alone. So the opposite of minus b is plus b. And we're going to plus b on each side. On the left, we have 4r minus b plus b cancels, and that equals m plus b. Can't put m and b together because they're not the same. Now I've got r multiplied by 4. Opposite of multiply by 4 is divide by 4, and we have to do that on each side. So the 4's on the left cancel. I'm left with r equals, and then the right is just going to stay how it is, m plus b divided by 4. Can't simplify that at all. That's as good as it gets. 5b plus 12c equals 9 for b. Well, we need to get that 5b term all by itself before we can simplify any further. So we need to get rid of 12c. Opposite of plus 12c is minus 12c. And we do that on each side. We get 5b plus 12c minus 12c cancels equals 9 minus 12c. Now we have to get b alone, so we need to divide by 5 on both sides. 5 over 5 cancels and leaves us with b, and the right just stays how it is, 9 minus 12c over 5. One more like this. We have x minus c over z equals y, and we want to solve it for c. This is the most complicated one we've seen so far. We need to get to minus c, but we can't because z is on the bottom. So first we have to get rid of that divided by z. And the opposite of that is multiply by z on both sides. So z divided by c cancels, and I've got x minus c equals y z. Now I want to get rid of this x, so I can subtract x from each side. The opposite of plus x is minus x. X minus x cancels. I'm left with minus c equals y z minus x. Now I've got this negative c. You can imagine it's negative 1. I'm going to divide by that negative 1. And all that does is flip all the signs. Negative 1 over negative 1 cancels. I'm left with c. And that gives us negative yz plus x. We can rewrite this a little bit prettier and say c equals x minus yz. All right, I hope those are pretty clear for you so far. Let's do some word problems. The perimeter of P of a rectangle is found by twice the sum of the length L and width W. So let's write this equation as we read it. The perimeter P of a rectangle is always tells us to be an equal sign. Twice the sum, so that means we're going to have parentheses with a plus in the middle, of the length and the width. Now we have to solve for W. Well, first we've got to get rid of this 2. There's 2 things I can do, but the one we're going to do for now is distribute. So we distribute 2, and this goes to P equals 2L plus 2W. Now I want to solve for W, so I need to get rid of this 2L. So I subtract it from each side and get P minus 2L equals 2L minus 2L cancels. I'm left with 2W. Now I need to divide everything by 2. That gives me P minus 2L over 2 equals W. I can rewrite that a little bit better. P equals P minus 2L over 2 And that's our answer. Next one, area of a trapezoid is, we'll call that capital A, 1/2 times the height h multiplied by the sum of the bases, multiplied by the sum, bases B1 and B2. And now I want to solve for B1. Well, let's get rid of the 1/2 first. We can rewrite this equation. Instead of multiplying by 1/2, we can say it's A equals H times B1 plus B2 all over 2. It's the same thing. Multiplying by 1/2 and dividing by 2 are the same. So let's multiply by 2 on each side to get rid of that half on the bottom. It's 2A equals H times B1 plus B2. Now I can distribute. Let's don't do that. Let's divide by H. Be a little bit easier. But H over H cancels out, and I've got 2A over H equals B1 plus B2. I want to get B1 alone, so I'm going to subtract B2 from each side. Those cancel, and I get 2A over H minus B2 equals B1. Hooray! So let's flip your paper over. And we're going to work on solving for y. This is the majority of, at this point, what we're going to be using literal equations for. It's going to be solving for y. So let's get used to that. We want to get y alone. So we need to get rid of here this plus 2x. Opposite of plus 2x is minus 2x. So we subtract that from each side. 2x minus 2x cancels, and I'm left with y equals. Let's always put the x in front. Negative 2x plus 8. You might recognize that as slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking for with all of these. Solve for y again. We need to get rid of x. So let's subtract x from each side. X minus x cancels, and I've got 3y equals negative x plus 6. Now we got to divide by this 3 to get it away from y, and I'm going to divide it by all of the pieces separately. Now, so 3 over 3 cancels, and I'm left with y, and that equals negative x over 3 is the same as negative 1/3 times x, plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's the slope-intercept form of that equation. I think you can do the rest of these. If you would please pause here and try these last 4 out, that'd be awesome. All right, let's get y alone. We need to get rid of 2x. So we subtract 2x from each side. 2x minus 2x cancels. I'm left with 4y is negative 2x plus 8. I'm going to divide both sides by this 4. 4 over 4 cancels, and I've got y equals. And that's negative 2/4 x plus 8/4. Well, we've got to simplify this a little bit. There's a lot of fractions that we can reduce here. Y can't be reduced. Negative 2/4 x is negative 1/2 x. Plus 8 over 4 is plus 2. And that's our answer. We've got 5x minus 2y equals 10. Well, as usual, we got to get rid of this x. 5x minus 5x cancels. I've got negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 10. Now we got to divide by negative 2. Let's divide it by all these terms. -2 over -2 cancels, and I've got y equals -5 over -2 is +5 over 2 times x. +10 divided by -2 is -5. That's our answer. Just a few more. 4x minus y equals 2. We got to get y alone, so we subtract 4x. -y equals -4x plus 2. Again, I've got that imaginary -1 in front of my y. That leaves me with y equals 4x minus 2. All the signs just flip around. Last one, got to subtract 5x from each side. X's cancel. We've got 2y equals -5x minus 10. Divide everything by 2. And that leaves me with y equals -5 over 2x minus 5. Just a few more for good measure here. We want to solve for x at this point. You can see that we've got x in a couple of places. We've got x in the first term, and I've got x in the second term. Well, since both of these terms on the left of my equation both have x's, I can factor that x out, kind of the reverse distributive property. If I have 3x and I take x out, I'm left with just 3. And I have plus xy and I take x out, I'm left with y. So you can see that if I were to go back and distribute, again, x, I'd have 3x plus xy, which is just what we started with. This is just the reverse distributive property is all we did. And that equals 6. Well, now I want to solve for x. Well, x is being multiplied by 3 plus y. So I'm going to do exactly what we did above and divide by 3 plus y. Those cancel. I'm left with x equals 6 over 3 plus y. It looks a little messy, but it's exactly what we did above. Let's do this again. We've got two x's again, 5x and xy. They're not on the same side of the equation. So let's rearrange first and get all the x's together. So I'm going to add 8 to each side. 5x equals xy plus 8. And I'm going to subtract xy. I'm seeing now that I could have done this a lot easier if I just subtracted 5x. But, you know, I hate negatives, so I just rearranged everything for no reason. Just like we did before, I want to factor x out because both of these terms have an x. If I have 5x and I take x away, I'm left with 5. Minus xy and I take x away, I'm left with minus y equals 8. To get x alone, I have to divide both sides by 5 minus y. And I've got x equals 8 divided by 5 minus y. I hope these make some sense to you. We're going to be practicing them a whole bunch. Work hard, review what we've done, and I hope to see you very soon.